Episode 79. The finale of Season 12.
We're still on this fucking arc.
Revenge. It's not the end of this arc, actually. The next episode's the end of this arc. Because
Are you fucking
initially,
kidding me?
the next episode was meant to be the season finale for this one, but it wasn't ready in time, and also
But they just left.
Shuffling around of other episodes.
But they just left.
Yes, but the arc, it's a continual arc where it's like every story leads into the next one.
No,
it ends after the next one.
No. The arc. Nerva.
Oh, the arc. I thought you meant the arc as in the story arc.
No. We're finally
there are
off
other stories
Nerva.
set on the arc in like audio form, and I think a book. They're pretty interesting. I love the concept of Nerva Beacon and the concept of I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I love the idea of like a single place that they come back to repeatedly, and it's changed over the years into something different. They do it with a few different places with episodes, but very rarely. Like, this is the most direct one they'll ever do. Anyway, Revenge of the Cybermen. Cybermen, sorry. Not man, they're men.
More than one.
We haven't seen the Cybermen, dear, in like fucking 6 years or so.
Listen.
Like, last time we saw them was the Invasion. They're in color now.
Uh-huh. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. They're black and gray and shit, so.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm gonna talk about that. What's the episode about, though?
Well, we come back to everybody spinning in space, and they land on Nerva again. The TARDIS hasn't arrived yet, and it needs to turn up. Also, a door opened, and there's a dead body, so something's up. The entire ship is actually full of dead bodies. However, there's some stuff coming in, and one person is still alive. And, like, Pluto is calling in, like, sorry, we have the plague, go away. And they're like, okay. And then they go, hey, we're thousands of years young here. We're early, basically. Also, there's a metal slug. Someone with a weird voice is calling into the beacon, but has a weird face and then gets shot. It is. I'm ugly, I know, I'm sorry. A nearby...
It's a weird voice, not ugly, and we said it as you were yawning. You were like, oh, weird
But
voice.
He has a weird face and gets shot, is literally what my note says.
I thought you said voice.
Okay, well, I meant face. It's fine. God dang, I'm so sleepy. I'm sorry. I had a long day at the gym. It was very difficult today. Anyway, a nearby asteroid is there, but, like, it's not supposed to be alive. That's weird. And then the doctor's crew gets into the bridge, and everyone's notified about it, and everybody's dead in here. Back to the weird people dragging bodies away. Also, they hate humans. There's a bald warmonger and a bald peacemonger, bro, who are arguing about shit, and it's literally Montague Capulet bullshit. And the slug is back, and they control the room now, and attacks the radio dude. And back at the door, they're like, oh god, someone got in, while a creepy turtleneck dude is smug and watches the dead controller die, basically, and steals all the log tape. And then the doctor has arrived in the Ford control room, followed by two gun boys. Gah. Turtleneck comes in and goes, look, dead plague body, let's shoot him. There's no treatment for it. And the doctor's like, this isn't a plague, so we could be your new medical team. So they take him to another...
Oh, come on. You gotta include the line that he says, because Kelman's like, look, this guy's dead. I think you should kill these 3 new people as well. And then the doctor just goes, who's the homicidal maniac?
Yeah. And they go into another room, and they're like, it's not a plague because of all this stuff I just found out. And Earth decided apparently to isolate Nerva, so everyone's fucked. Turtleneck renamed the asteroid nearby Voga, and the doctor's like, oh, the gold planet, I remember that. And it's Cybermen stuff, so let's go get our guns and run off while Turtleneck plugs in his typewriter. The typewriter sends a message out to the Cybermen penis ship, and the doctor goes to snoop around Turtleneck's room after he leaves, finds some gold. And Turtleneck thinks he found the doctor hiding in his room and electrocutes the floor. because that'll work. And then the guy from earlier is dead now, so they put his body somewhere. And then the doctor is playing The Floor is Lava, and a metal slug is attacking Sarah, and the doctor can't get out of the room, and Sarah's being attacked, and everything sucks. And that's it.
Wow, okay. Okay. Revenge of the Cybermen, eh? So, there's a lot to talk about, but I'll talk about it more between other parts of this. For now, I'll just say, initially, this episode was titled The Return of the Cybermen, and the writer, Jerry Davis, who was co-creator of the Cybermen, wrote it, and he gave them individual titles for episodes again, even though it hasn't happened since the late 60s. And the individual titles were The Beacon in Space, The Plague Carriers, The Gold Miners, and The Battle for Nerva. A number of sets for this story we reused from The Ark in Space, which was recorded immediately before it, because the production schedule, again, they basically recorded all the episodes at once when they could, like back to back, and figured out a better production schedule for it, instead of just recording one episode, then recording the next episode the next week, and recording the episode after that, the week after that sort of thing. This is the first time that the Cybermen are in color, and it's also, fun fact, the first Cybermen story to not have the second Doctor in it. Because every single Cybermen story before this has had the second Doctor in this in some capacity. Like, even the 10th Planet, it had him in it at the very end. Which I didn't realize until just now. It's like, yeah, they are all, yeah. Long story short, the costumes in this were meant to be the costumes from the invasion, but the only two of those had survived, and they were deteriorating and looked awful. So they had to basically make new ones. And it doesn't look that great. Because especially in Blu-ray quality, it has a camp quality to it. Of just, it looks so bad. But the Cybermen here especially kind of lose focus of what the Cybermen are. This is the kind of, I like to call this episode kind of like a black sheep of Cybermen episodes, because it's not utilizing the Cybermen properly as a essentially a tale of possible human evolution, of greed with immortality and sort of a fear of medical advancement, that sort of thing. Versus but it's not over the top enough, or like completely missing the mark enough to be like the 80s Cybermen episodes, which are like the Cybermen are emoting, they have like glee, they're gloating. It's like pure over the top, like camp in almost unintentionally in a lot of ways. So this one's kind of just like they misuse the Cybermen here, and from here on out they basically misuse them, and they do kind of in the new series as well a bit. That the Cybermen become just a rubbish monster. They're just robots. They're not like, they're just a muscle. Like, the real threat in this episode isn't the Cybermen of any sort of moral threat. It's just a physical threat, which has kind of been noted that Doctor Who at this time especially didn't need and doesn't work with just like invasion style stories. Like, what the series needed and what people were kind of demanding were villains and monsters that made sense and sort of had motives that you could realize. Like, why are the Cybermen invading? Because they're evil. Like, it's like that doesn't cut it anymore. It's like people actually want substance. They don't want just, consumable, discardable content. They want something that's actually kind of justifies itself and is in some way thought-provoking. The book that I have kind of editorializes in a bit and sort of has a moment of describing that the author feels that this episode could have been one of the great episodes that Jerry Davis, Robert Holmes, and Philip Hinchcliffe were looking for, because especially for Robert Holmes and Philip Hinchcliffe, they had a sort of a sort of theme underlying a lot of their episodes, especially in this early era, of like a gap of power between like symbolic death and real morality. It's something that Philip Hinchcliffe and Holmes have always kind of alluded to since then, that they've always stressed with that. Like, stories begin with someone effectively being killed and end with that person physically dying. Even an episode that's pretty ridiculous, up soon, makes sense with this principle. The comeback threat that is in this is the Cybermen, but this is kind of like a sequel to an episode that we haven't seen. Like, we're told about a war that's happened and the Cybermen are back, but it's like that we don't know this story, so we're sort of learning about it in happenstance. And the episode introduces a concept of the cyber war, which is something that nearly every episode from here on out, even in the new series, actually talks about, which I find kind of fascinating. It's basically just a war between Cybermen and humanity. Also, the cyber wars can technically be an umbrella term for a whole heap of other wars involving. It's a long story. That's not that interesting, because I know Dia's going to tell me to shut up.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit more about this episode was initially, but I'll leave you on the fact that, like, the Cybermen in this were, like, basically we've never seen Cybermen in their prime up to this point, and even then they've always been scavengers, or like after a war where they've been like cut back, or like they're on the brink of death, that sort of thing. We never really see them in their prime, and they could have made like this episode work as like a good like possession style story, like really playing up the elements of a Cyberman is a person, a human trapped in this cybernetic robot casing that has been harvested to become a new creature that is hell-bent on harvesting other humans. That is an absolute great horror story that they could have gone with, but they just didn't for some reason. And they went with what this is. And long story short, everyone behind the scenes considers this episode a mess. Philip Hinchcliffe hates it because he felt the production was awful, the Cybermen looked awful, and the story just fell apart because it was rewritten constantly. Fans used to think this was a great episode, and then it kind of, over time, people realized it's actually kind of crap. I still love it for nostalgia reasons, but I mean, I love it, but it's bad. Anyway, what happens in part 2, dear? I've talked for way too long.
Sarah's dead. They gotta get her to the transmount system in order for her to survive. And there's now anti-plague proof. Basically, they can prove it's not a plague. But the transmat was sabotaged, so everyone's like, it's Turtleneck who has a fucking gun now. And Doctor's like, maybe I can fix it. Well, the gunmen go talk to Turtleneck. Well, the gold bald men on the asteroid have a rocket and still want to go to war. And they have like 4 hours to finish the rocket. Too bad Turtleneck isn't in his room, so gun boys split up. The Doctor blinds himself for a moment, but sends Hera and Sari down. Harry and Sarah down to the planet, and she's good now. But Harry is on the planet and finds a lot of gold, and he's like, ooh! And then all the bald men show up in boats, and they're like, we're gonna fucking take you. And then Turtleneck is now at gunpoint, and there's a standoff, but he gets jumped and caught. Harry and Sarah get put on a Willy Wonka ride to the gold place. The Cybermen apparently hate gold because it fucks them up. And the Doctor is like, can you please talk? And he's like, no. And then the giant cyber penis ship is here. Harry and Sarah are confronted by the bald Goldman. They apparently planned the plague, and only 4 humans were supposed to be still alive. But then an even older bald man calls in and goes, "Hey, come to the city, please. I'd like to go on a date." And the dude's like, "Fine." Back on Nerva, another metal slug has come up and is gonna bite Turtleneck. The older bald man is like, "No human should come here. It's your fault they did." And the old man's militia is going to go down to the mines. And bald war man is upset about it. There's now some guns going off, fighting, gunfire. The doctor fixes a teleporter, but his friends didn't come back. And there's another ship flying in. That's weird. Sarah and Harry get free of their shackles, fuck off, and then someone notices, and they get shot at a lot, and they run away faster. Cut to the doctor, seeing the penis ship, and it just keeps coming towards them to try to dock. Too bad Sarah and Harry ran into the cave that has the other bald guys in it, which kind of saved them, because now it's a standoff. And the one bald guy is wanting to go talk to Harry and Sarah. And then the ship is almost here, and the doctor's like, "No, they can't board us." And he tries to close the door, and it doesn't really work. And it's the Cybermen, and they come in, and they kill everybody, and also the doctor. And that's it.
Everybody's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's dead. Everybody's dead.
Yep.
So, Voga. Voga was a cave system, called the Wookiee Hole Caves. Basically, that's where Voga was. A location renowned for bad luck. When scouting the ancient cave system for its suitability for location suits, the director's wife found some Iron Age arrowheads and decided to take them home, unwittingly calling an ancient curse on the production team. That's how they always kind of joked about it. First, the team encountered a strange individual in potholing gear, who had apparently just wandered into set, of whom no one working on the show fucking, like no one had any idea who they were. Like, they were filming, and then there's just some guy, like, exploring a cave, and it's like, hello? We're filming here. Like, we have this, like, kind of cut off for the day. Like, what are you doing? The director began to believe this was the ghost of an Irish potholer who had died in the cave 3 years earlier. They lost their minds a little bit. The boats used in the cave scenes repeatedly broke down. One production team member had to be replaced due to an attack of claustrophobia, and another was taken ill. On a day when staff disobeyed instructions not to touch the, quote, witch formation, like a formation of rocks that's, like, said to be a petrified body of a witch, essentially. Yeah. Elizabeth Sladen, who plays Sarah Jane, nearly fucking died. Her boat went haywire. She had to dive overboard to keep herself from smashing into the cavern wall, where a stuntman had to pull her out to save her from drowning, and he later fell ill. So yeah, she nearly fucking died. An electrician broke his leg when a ladder collapsed underneath him, and a pyrotechnician found nothing would light or work correctly. The director took the arrowheads from his wife and reburied them, after which production ran smoothly. Supposedly. Yeah, this was kind of a nightmare production in a sense, in that way. Yeah, the director later put it down to lack of oxygen in the caves as why they kind of lost their minds a little bit. It's kind of ridiculous. But yes, it's kind of dumb. So here's another dumb little thing. The hairbrush that Kellen has, it was a literal prop that was in Live and Let Die, the Bond movie. The prop was actually handed over by Roger Moore, who visited the BBC in 1973. He was talking to the props master at the time and was saying, The props master didn't even recognize him, and he had paid him 2 shillings and 6 pence, which is like 12.5 pence in decimal, apparently, but like basically fucking nothing. For the item, well, a little bit of something. And Roger Moore went on saying, like, I'd popped into the Beeb for a cup of tea and spotted a notice about an upcoming Doctor Who, so I thought the darlings would be cash-strapped. They'd need anything they could get their hands on. It wasn't MGM after all, but I didn't expect to walk out with money. Again, Doctor Who never really had much of a budget because the BBC didn't really want to give it to them. And they did what they could with this, but cracks start appearing in a few years about the budget, especially when Star Trek The Next Generation comes out. This is such a weird episode when you really think about it. Philip Hinchcliffe hated the production. He felt it was more like the old ways of doing things, like back in the Third Doctor's era. He didn't like the Vogons, he didn't like the mask, he didn't like the way the actors that played Vogons were like playing them with like Shakespearean projected shouting. He was also really unhappy with the incidental music. So he actually got someone to do like basically zhuzh it up. And even then he was still not that happy. After this, Dudley Simpson would be the only composer employed on the show, except for a few episodes because the director on those episodes refused to work with him. Lord knows why. There's a lot of drama between people, apparently. But yeah, what happens in the next episode, dear?
Well, actually, they aren't dead. Turtleneck is also free and digs through his pockets a little bit. Harry and Sarah are brought up, asked to explain everything. Turtleneck has been working with them, the bald dudes, for a while, and they wanted to destroy wanted to destroy Voga. By the way, that gunfight is still going on. But a message comes down, and the Cybermen have brought in some bombs, and Turtleneck goes down and to Voga and is like, "Hey, what the fuck?" Harry and Sarah are also to go down to the mines and deal with some shit. The Doctor is pissing off some Cybermen nearby, and it wants to choke him out. But then the Doctor grabs a bomb so he can get some information. And then another Cyberman comes up from behind and basically fucks over his entire plan. The bombs were banned by Space Geneva, but it's fine. And the humans are given time to run away. So the Cybermen move everyone and the bombs to Voga and shoot some bald dudes. And Turtleneck is trying to tell everyone that there's a trap, and then someone drives up and says it's a trap, and they're like, "Oh God!" And the Doctor still has no plan, really, for his bomb backpack. Sarah and Harry decide to split up. War bald dude calls everyone off, tells everyone there's Cybermen here. But if Sarah tells people about the rocket, the bombs will probably just get set off anyway. So we see Sarah taking a boat, driving off to go stand at the teleporter and back to the ship. And the bald boys basically go, Turtleneck is a piece of shit. Harry is like, stop this shit. We actually need to work together. What the fuck? And the Doctor is going deeper into the mine, hoping that the gold will fuck with the Cybermen's radars. Harry and Turtleneck have been blocked up in a tunnel. There's some climbing and some caves. And then there's a cave-in on top of the Doctor. Turtleneck and the Doctor are dead. Haha. And Harry's like, oh, wait, actually, he only bumped his brain. So let's take this weird backpack thing off. Woohoo. There you go.
Oh, hee hee hee. Ha 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 ha.
Hee hee ha hoo.
So, just to amend the story about the electrician that broke his leg, because you know, I love the story. What happened was the electricians reportedly dressed up the witch Rock with a cape, a pointy hat, and a broom, and then 1.5 hours later, one of them slipped on a rock and broke his leg. So I was like, curses. Ooh. Anyway, so the symbol that's hanging on the Vogan audience chamber and on their costumes, the little like swirly 8 thing, that would be reused in a later episode and then is more recognizably known as the Seal of Rassilon, which is it's meant to be like an ancient sort of symbol of Gallifreyan society in a sense. So it's like, why is it on this asteroid of gold? There have been like people making like stories to try and fill that gap of like, oh, the Vogons were assisted by the Time Lords or something back in the day, and so as like tribute, they use the symbol everywhere, and it's carried throughout the society. It's dumb. But what's more interesting about this story is that, in the year of our Lord, 2021, Big Finish Productions, the company that does audio adventures of Doctor Who and various other properties, resurfaced the original script by Jerry Davis for this episode, Return of the Cybermen, and did an adaptation of it. They called it Return of the Cybermen, and there are a lot of differences between it and Revenge of the Cybermen. The most significant one is that Vogons are not in it. The Vogons and the whole Civil War dumb subplot in Revenge is gone. It's not there at all. Voga is just a gold-rich asteroid, and what are Vogons are just like a tribe of colonists who inhabit the asteroid. Like, that's all it is. The tribe also plays a far smaller role than the Vogons do. Most of the action takes place on Nerva Beacon. There's no reference to any sort of cyber wars. There's more just an illusion that the Cybermen have been dead. Kelman is more selfish and dies by the hands of, I believe, Cybermen instead of Harry accidentally killing him. Which I still find hilarious that Harry kills him. Also, my memory is terrible today. I can't remember if you... Oh no, it's in the beginning of the next episode where the Doctor says it. If you don't say it, I will.
I won't.
Okay, I will then. They initially had the cybermat infection be black in their veins, similar to the way that the cybermat infection was in the moon base, in the Cybermen one. Remember that Cybermen episode where they had an infection on the moon base, and then the Cybermen jumped in the air on the moon? It looked ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know. Great. In Revenge of the Cybermen, Sarah is the only female character, which is a problem with a lot of writers with Doctor Who. They tend to not write any female characters, like Terry Nation just tends to not write women in his stories a lot. But in Return of the Cybermen, they have two more characters who are more involved with the plot as well. It's such a weird original script because it was originally like, okay, Jerry Davis was in America at the time and he wrote it like, instead of Nerva Beacon, it was meant to be like a space casino that was deserted, and it's like so weird. The Big Finish adaptation kind of cleans it up a bit and makes it the sort of actual fitting one that makes sense. But they also tried to make it make sense with continuity as well, because, you know, hey, let's have fun with that in a way that they could have it actually fit with Revenge of the Cybermen as well, which I thought was kind of funny. They kind of rejected that in a sense. But that's the way the episode goes.
Mm-hmm.
As it is. What was I about to say? I'm trying to say something, but my mind is racing. Here, I'll tell you the fact that in the part 3 of this is technically the 400th episode of Doctor Who. If you count each individual part as its own episode.
Oh, joy.
Also, between episodes 1 and 2, William Hartnell unfortunately passed away, which is a kind of an odd thing in and of itself. In like, it's there's kind of a quaintness to it in a way. of his final episode was with Cybermen, and then when the Cybermen finally return is like while the Cybermen are airing once again is when he unfortunately passes away. It's got an earness of, okay, that's a weird coincidence. But yes, Philip Hinchcliffe fucking hated the Cybermen design. It shouldn't have been what it was. Everyone kind of went, okay, well, now we're in color, what should they be? And they kind of just kept them silver, as if, not to say they needed color, but like if you're going to keep them silver, you have to cover up the fact that they're just in a jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, they attempt to do sometimes, but in some variations of the design, but these ones not so much. But that is the unfortunate fact that is Revenge of the Cybermen. Speaking of Big Finish adapting the original script, they actually have just recently announced in the last month or so, about 10 days ago at time of recording, not dating this at all, that they are doing adaptations of the original script for the Ark, for the Ark in Space. If you remember when we did that one, we talked about the fact that the original script was completely different. And also an adaptation of Terry Nation's first draft of Genesis of the Daleks, which was also a very, not very different, but a different story in and of itself, which I find kind of fascinating that they're able to find and resurface these scripts and polish them up and make them quality. But anyway, what happens in the next part? Yeah.
You mean the last one? So
last, they are the same.
So the one of the bomb dudes comes up and he's like, "Dude, stop!" And the doctor's like, "Harry, you're an idiot. Would you like to?"
Yeah, he the doctor basically wakes up and goes, "Harry, stop!" And then Harry's like, "What?" And then the doctor just sort of looks up and goes, "Harry Sullivan is an imbecile," and then passes out.
Yeah. Sarah's meanwhile,
we're in full Harry hating mode now.
On the ship spying around. Harry informs the doctor about all of this. The doctor makes a plan to split the radar and attack the Cybermen with gold. Baldmen are still arguing, but now the Cybermen are winning and everyone's angry. Doctor and Harry are attack the Cybermen and it's a tussle, but they aren't winning, so one dude just comes in and blows himself up and they win. So instead, let's just blow up. Wait, why did our bombs not work? Say the Cybermen. Cut to the doctor making the bombs not work. Then Sarah mentions that there's a rocket. The Cybermen are like, lol, that sucks. It's not fired yet, so fuck them. Doctor wants 15 minutes to go up and save Sarah with some gold dust. They're like, okay. Cybermen are still thinking about how to kill the asteroid and decide to run into it. The doctor is beaming back up. Sarah and the doctor whistle at each other for a bit, and the doctor is ready to do some shit. The bombs are being loaded, and the Baldmen are like, we shouldn't have listened to the doctor. So, and then we see the doctor filling a metal slug with gold. The Ark's engine starts, so they use the slug to attack a Cyberman and kill it. Of course, the Baldmen have a fight about pushing the button too soon, and in dying, the rocket goes off. The slug is attacking more and more, and the doctor and Sarah get captured again. So the Cybermen leave the doctor and Sarah. They're like, ooh, we're really dead, aren't we? And then the doctor gets free and calls down to Voga and asks them to just like send the rocket over the top of them. And they're like, cool. And then it just runs into the Cyberman ship. But then the controls are locked and everyone's just going to die. Actually, no, we fixed it and we're going to just miss by a hair. And then the TARDIS shows up. Harry teleports back in. And then everybody jumps into the TARDIS, and they're like, the Brigadier needs me, so they swoop out. That's it.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of season 12. It's over. We're dead. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think, Tom?
Like a 3.5. I'm like teetering on the fact
as usual,
that
I'm going to round up to a 4.
Don't like it. Well, no, there's legitimately a reason, because, like, I'm teetering on the fact that, like, I would never watch this again, or if it was just whatever. Like, I really don't know, honestly. There are parts of me that are like, this is so fucking stupid, and there's so much going on, and it's just impossible, and I dislike so many parts of it, but then the other parts of me are like, it's whatever. Like, I don't care. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, that's alright. Oh well. Next episode, season 13 begins.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you think we start with season 13, dear?
I don't know.
Take a wild stab in the dark.
Is it Nerva?
No, we never come back to Nerva.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to Scotland.
Oh, good.
Terror of the Zygons. It begins. We have a very, 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 very fun episode with a monster that is hilarious. I'm not going to show you them, dear, and don't you dare look it up.
Okay.
We return to Unit and Earth itself in Terror of the Zygons next time. Anything else you want to say, dear?
Nah, I'm good. I'm tired.
Good night.
Nah.